today.
Okay, goes on that line. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we get started, we've got some new faces here that I'd like to have some introductions to. And you are?
Yeah, I'm Kyle Perez. I'm a new hire with Parks and Rec Youth Bureau, so I'll be working with Zach Rulick and Brian Channing.
Oh, okay.
Sorry yesterday.
Alrighty, and?
Good morning, guys. I'm an intern. My name is Gavin Nicholas. I'm from Oswego. I'm with the New Vision program, and I'm interning with Terry Wilbur.
Okay, we might as well all introduce ourselves so you know who you're sitting with.
I'm Savannah Wyckoff. I'm Public Information for Oswego County Tourism.
Ed Gilson, County Legislator, District 3, Brookside.
Rio, Legislator, District 5.
Yes.
Paul Conley, County Legislator, District 1.
Heather Snow, Director of Mobility Management. Rachel Pierce, Director of Workforce Development.
I'm Tim Sall, Director of Community Development, Planning, and Tourism. Tanya Breivik, Deputy Director of Community Development, Planning, and Tourism.
Austin Wheelock, Executive Director of Operations, Oswego County, and CEO of Oswego County IDA.
Holly Carpenter, Director of Purchasing.
Gary Tope, IDA Board.
Paul House, Legislator, District 8, Majority Leader.
Raven A. Hart, Deputy Clerk of the Legislature.
Marie Schott, Legislator, District 19.
Frank Castillo, Legislator, 25th District, Minority Leader.
Veronica Turner, Budget Analyst, County Auditor.
Mary Ellen Chesbrough, County Legislator, District 10. And as you can see, we have a wealth of information that is in this room right now. And these are the main people that decide things for economic planning and development. Okay. Approval of minutes. Do I have any questions, additions, subtractions? No? Do I hear
Motion?
Motion?
I'll second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, passed. EP1, resolution authorizing the Oswego County Office of Mobility Management to accept funding from the Alzheimer's Association Central New York chapter. Do I have a motion to discuss? Second? Yes. And what this is this is proof that we've been doing such a great job between mobility management and our Office of Aging that in getting seniors transported to the county, that they have said we've done such a good job, they're going to give us $20,000. So that's huge. I think it's a pat on our back and a pat on our department heads that they've been able to go out, show what we do, and that they agree to give us money. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. EP2, resolution awarding professional service contract to for transit software. Motion to discuss?
I'll move it.
Second? Okay. Questions? Yes.
I had sent an email to Phil, and we didn't get back to each other yet, but can you explain this to me?
Yes. And actually, I'm going to refer to our mobility management director, but it is a fantastic. We're coming up in time and having software so that we are now in the IT generation.
Yes, so we have zero, everything's pen and paper right now, so it's very hard for me to get accurate data. First of all, to report to the public, but also to report back to the state. This transit software provider has also been adopted by Centro. And so they're also offering us our own branded app where people will be able to go into the app and reserve their trips, but also be able to see all the transit options with both Centro and OPT routes. And so they can see the buses in live action on the app, and they can know exactly where the bus is along the route. But most importantly, we'll be able to have access to the program to be able to go in there and pull any type of ad hoc reporting that I need to be able to directly submit to the state. But also during our auditing process, it shows that we as a county are providing oversight to our public transit provider. And the data that we gather can now be used to expand our fixed route services. So we'll be able to see where people are getting picked up in groups and where we need to expand. But also I will be able to go in and have a live access to see all of the buses at all times. And so I can see buses when they're falling behind schedule. I can see if they're deviating off route further than they're supposed to. There's a lot of data that we will be able to have access to that we don't have access to right now. With the customer-facing app portion, it's going to take a lot of stress off the dispatch team, which currently only has 2 people right now building all of the calls for our services, but all of OCO services as well. So it gets really busy back there. The technology is going to be able to receive all of the data and all of the trips and put people on vehicles together that are going the same direction. And so right now, they're receiving all the trips and they're looking at the addresses by hand and scheduling everything by hand manually. And so it's not very accurate. This is now an AI that's being introduced that's going to do all of that with a click of a button. I know that's a lot.
Well, it's
information.
It makes a lot more sense than pen and paper. Can you just go over the fees with me, or maybe you? So there's an initial startup of $90,300.
Yes.
Then I find this a little convoluted. 1 year monthly subscription, 2 year, 3 year, 1 year total cost $203, which would be 1 year and startup. So is it $112,800 a month or a year?
A year.
Okay, annual.
Annual. It's supposed to be annual. That's not a monthly subscription.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought the
Well,
same
it's saying
thing.
monthly subscription, and I just thought it seemed
Yeah, the word total probably should be in.
Yeah, when I
there,
first
say
saw
monthly
that,
total.
I thought the same
so
thing.
it's
where
just
it's
an
like,
annual fee.
Yes.
And is that, does the state pick up?
So the subscription fee, so year 1, we will have to use the DOH funds to get started, but every year after that, we can put that into our normal 5311 grant application under operating.
Okay. And you'll have more data to show them.
Absolutely. I can report back and say, hey, this is where our data stands, like we need more operating based on this data. More data equals more funding.
So I think they should correct where it says monthly subscription fees to
yeah,
annual.
we can change that and yeah. Now, is that something that we need to amend?
Yeah, if you amend it here, that's better.
Okay, we'll amend it here after we get done discussing.
Why are you amending it?
You don't
The
have to amend
resolution
that.
is correct.
Right, the resolution is correct, this is just the
They just
information.
filled it out incorrectly. We
This
asked
is the
for monthly,
information.
and they put their yearly.
Yeah, the resolution does say monthly subscription fee of $112,800. So it does kind of, when you read it, it kind of looks like,
Then you gotta amend it now.
yeah,
You gotta make a motion to amend it.
Right.
Somebody forget
Yes.
it.
that's why I wanted to make
Okay,
sure.
yeah,
Roy?
I'll make a motion to amend a monthly to just say a total monthly subscription fee. I think that.
No, annual.
Annual. Yeah,
Or just change the word to annual?
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
say annual, but that's up to you guys.
Yeah, I think that would be the
I would
clearest thing.
second that.
Okay, right, so we're taking out a monthly and changing it to an annual.
And then you're taking out for,
That's it, Holly? Holly, you got any questions?
no, I got it.
Yeah, because I think as you go on, it does do it correctly, because it's like 203, 100, and year 2 and 3 annual costs of 112. So the second part of
Goes
it was
over
good.
there, but not there, and then on the resolution is where the big
Yeah.
thing is, what
Yeah.
we had to change.
So part of the resolution that had it perfect, the other part, with the monthly kind of was confusing. Okay, anybody have any other questions
Well, I need a second,
before
I
we?
guess, on-
Okay,
I'd second that.
She gave you a second, you gotta vote on the amendment.
yes,
Then you can
I
put a
know,
question.
right, thank you.
Okay.
Well, thank you, I appreciate your assistance in that. Okay, we could have a motion to amend resolution,
Yeah, we got it.
second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now before we go to the actual amended resolution, is there any other discussion?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question.
Okay.
So, Heather, just to be clear, is this somewhat similar to like the Lyft, where if you have the app on your phone, you can actually see the bus coming, you'll know it'll be there in 5 minutes or whatever, okay.
Yeah.
That to me, that's a game changer, I think, to me, for people being able to use it and see where the buses are.
We can also, the technology also optimizes throughout the day, and so if there's like a trip cancellation or the weather changes, the data and the the routes will take that into account for the day. So it will say, hey, it's really snowy, or there's an accident on this road, we're going to send you an alternate route, or hey, we have to move this trip off your schedule because it's going to make this person late for their appointment. But that will also allow for last minute trips. So if somebody has like a same day trip or something they need to get to like immediately, they can call and see if there's been a cancellation, because the system will know, hey, there's an opening on this bus that can get you there at that time. But the app will also allow for us to send push notifications if they have that feature on in their app, which means that there's closures, or we need to warn people about Amish buggies, or anything we need to send, we can send it through a notification on the app that will let the client know, hey, just be aware of this for the day.
Ed?
How will you convey this to the public so that we can maximize the utilization of it?
So the software provider has a rollout plan over a 3 to 6 month period of time, and it includes training. So I am going to go through the full training, and we're also going to train Office for the Aging staff. I'd love to train your staff as well, so that we can start educating the public. But the software provider is going to provide some training aspects for both staff and public.
And that's in that.
Yes. Yeah.
Anybody else have any?
I think everyone knows this, but we get paid on an annual basis based on our ridership. So it's so important for us to continue to drive these numbers up. Also to get correct data. You are taking this information on a daily basis as a bus driver, in addition to everything else you're doing, and then it gets handed to somebody else, and somebody else and puts it on a piece of paper, then maybe gets put into a spreadsheet. It's a lot of steps to lose this ridership. This software is going to allow us to have real-time data of how many people are riding it, which we can then use to drive up the money that we're going to be getting from the state to, again, help this become a sustainable program. It's one of the things we've talked about for years. And so this is key. So I want to thank Heather, and I'll put this together. This is going to be interesting for us.
Okay, great. Last question. Great job. Will this include routes so people can get back to work in Oswego County?
Yeah, so the really great thing is that, so like I said, like Centro's also adopted the same software, and so when somebody opens the app and they type in their starting and their destination address, it's going to tell them, hey, there's this fixed route, there's a scooter available that you can take to a fixed route, you can book a paratransit trip, you can book an access trip, you can reach out to talk to somebody in customer service. You're going to be able to see all of the options, and if we want to encourage people to use a fixed route, if they are closer to a fixed route versus booking a demand response trip, we can also have, it won't show up, like you don't have to show them that option. We can just show them the fixed route option, or we can mold the technology how we want it. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Just to jump off what Legislator Gilson asked about how you're going to inform the public, and you talked about that the provider is going to do all this educating, but how are we going to do that educating? Do you have any idea how they're going to do the educating? Because it's kind of like having free steak dinner.
Yeah.
If you can't get it out there, everybody's going to have an awful lot of steaks to be thrown out. Okay, so how are we, do you have any idea what they're going to do? Because it's very hard. Everybody says, well, we're going to put it in the paper. Well, not everybody gets paper in.
Yeah.
You're going to put it online. Well, not everybody has a computer online. Nobody looks at those things. What are we going to do to get it? Because I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
I'm all for it. But I want to make sure that the people that need it the most are going to be able to get to it, okay? And know how to get to it. That's my big concern. So we'll have to keep an eye on it to make sure that everybody finds out some way, shape, or form, because it's hard. You know.
Oh, I agree. It's marketing.
You know, everybody says, "Well, we're going to put it in the Pale Times." Well, not everybody gets the Pale Times. Not everybody gets the Daily News. Not everybody watches, the internet.
Ride us through on Facebook.
You know?
Okay. I think
there you go.
I think it would be a really good idea for me to reach out to some of my colleagues, other mobility managers in rural areas that have recently adopted technology, like up in St. Lawrence County and Watertown. They have technology, and I'll reach out and see how they market it and how they train their communities. So I'll start gathering data to see what we can use over here. But also, we have a new website launching called OswegoCounty.com/transportation. So that's going to be on all of our buses, and it will be a singular place where everybody can go to see all the transportation resources on one county page. So that will help guide people to learn more.
It'd be great to get to, each one of the legislators, because they're the ones that run into the people that say, well, how do I get this transport, how do I get that transportation? And be able to go and, talk with them at any meetings, be it the town hall meetings, be it common council meetings, stuff like that. Thank you very much. Done a great job.
Austin?
I was just going to say, I think that you work really well with Rachel already, so I think working with workforce development to let them know about those programs, but also Department of Labor when people are getting unemployment benefits, also Department of Social Services at the county level. If everyone knows that these resources are there and know that, hey, if you're getting benefits and, you're saying, hey, well, I can't get transportation, well, here's something you can do. Here's all the resources you have available. So I think just, communication between departments at the county, I think can help with that a lot.
I think notifying the different companies in the area as well as employers that they know so that they can, I can't get to work. Well, guess what? I have a problem. That opens the door for a lot of unemployed. Or people that are working and all of a sudden my car broke. Well, guess what? You've got some options here.
I was going to say there's already some like Champlain, they're the fresh food group now out in the town of Oswego. They're very interested in identifying transportation options of how to get people out to some more of the rural manufacturers and rural employment centers.
Okay. Any other comments, concerns?
Well, you make beautiful signs out the highway department, maybe a small little sign to add along with the bus stop signs with the address. People are at the bus stop, they can see, www. whatever.
Yeah, add that to that.
Just a small little addition.
Get new bus signs anyways.
It'd be good, get up there.
Information is power.
Well, yeah, and, I know Heather's probably going to share some photos of the new wraps, but we're definitely going to put the West dress on there, so we're going to have some floating advertising going. I have a question for you though, Heather. So this is going to be is this a second app? You can book trips on the other app, but you need this app to see. It's going to be
one app.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And it's branded ourselves, so we can make the app look however we want to make it look.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to need your help with that.
Yeah, I think it's pretty amazing. It's going to be just a total game changer.
Yes.
I also, let's take a bigger question. Heather's also offered a number of ride the route classes where she will ride the bus and she'll work with DSS and the other local departments to actually be on the bus with them. Because, riding the bus the first time can be very intimidating. And we want people to be willing to ride the bus. And so the ride the routes class has also been very helpful. Maybe that'd be a place we could kind of show them the app as well. So
bring that back. We did train 25 people last year. They're split between 3 classes. 47% of the class candidates were people with disabilities and or seniors.
Are you still training at the Welcome Center too in Fulton? Or?
Yes. So in the winter time, I make myself available once a month, split between Alaska and Fulton, just open to the public days where people can come in. I usually get about 8 to 10 people throughout the day, where they'll just sit with me and specifically transit plan for their business or the individual. Yeah. And then when spring and summer come around, we'll go back to regular route.
And so do you envision being able to use the software to help redesign or continually evolve the routes that we're using?
Absolutely. That is
and that's the key.
Yeah, that's the bottom line right there.
That's the #1 reason.
And this is the type of thing where hopefully other organizations will see what a good job we're doing and we can get some more grants. I like it.
Well, most of it's covered anyways by the federal.
Well, it is, but hey, extra money into the coffer is always good.
Yes, not opposed to the Alzheimer's group giving us 20 grand.
Absolutely. Okay, can I have a motion for the amended resolution?
I'll move it.
Second? All those in favor?
I think we already moved it in the beginning.
Did we? Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Passed. Excellent. Okay, let's get right into our reporting departments, promotion and tourism.
Speaking of wraps, for those of you that came to the parking lot, our van is now wrapped out, and it's really nice when it does snow. The one side is white, has a lot of outdoor snow. So when
Hold on, my dear, get that.
When it does snow on one side, it does look great. For our first show of the year.
I'm not sure we can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've taken it to our first show, which was last week in the Sportsman Expo down in Syracuse. It seems that Saturday was well attended throughout Central New York. A lot of questions, a lot of brochures going out to anyone that attended about what you can do in Oswego County. With that, the eclipse is coming up. We have 7,500 glasses that will be delivered. We're thinking 50 per legislator to give out to your local, governments or friends, whatever you'd like to do. We have quite a few going to Selkirk, Ford, the county fair, who's having Cornell students come up to view the eclipse. With that being said, we also have sort of like on our social media, eclipse on the 8th, so every 8th of the month, January, February, March, we do give the public information. We boosted that first one, and there were 600 shares between the two platforms. That post was our highest performing post of the month with a reach of 48,755 and 61,197 impressions and engagement of 7,028. With the new website, for those of you that have seen it, we welcome now that we are pretty much up and running and on track. Any kind of comments or questions, you can use it with your phone, you can use it with your tablet, you can use it with your website. The Eclipse class will also have a QR code that if you do scan, it goes directly to our visitoswegocounty.com. With Facebook and Instagram, we are up in numbers. On Facebook, new followers are 210, content interactions up 250%, link clicks are up 165%, Instagram, our total reach is 3,200, new followers are 29, and content interactions up 14.5%. If you didn't see it, we sort of are piggybacking on pop culture. We had a great Travis Kelce / Taylor Swift, where she's whispering in her ear and she says, have you heard it's really cool to go fishing up in Oswego County? That was our hire.
That was pretty funny. I did laugh out loud.
Yeah, we've had quite a few. I've had, at least our office, fishermen all over Northeast called or texted me and said that was kind of funny. We're sort of sharing it with our group for when we come up for that once-a-year trip. That was a reach of 10,534 people with that post. And also with the Eclipse, we're working with local communities as best we can, figuring out what they're doing, working with emergency management. Obviously, our slogan is come early, leave late. With the amount of people that are going to be coming, it's kind of rough. More than a Saturday night at Harbor Fest, if not double. So, any questions?
Yeah, in reference to the eclipse, I had a inquiry about the Sandy Island Beach Pavilion, if that's going to be open. It's controlled by the state, correct now?
I'm sure it'll be open. I don't know if they're having an event there as of yet.
Yeah. Could you confirm that for me, that that's going to be available to the public? I mean, is it going to be available to the public, or is there a private event there? There's a high school class that wanted to make sure they can use the restrooms if they were set up.
The only problem with using restrooms or water for that matter, they have to contact the health department to get inspected for the year. Quite similar as like the racetrack here. They're only offering parking. There is no event there. So that's something we're trying to get out to people, is that you can camp there if you want. Stay there for the week. They have a 4-day, 5-day event. But as far as like them having a viewing party on track, there's not. It's just a camping facility. Okay. So I can reach out to Sam.
Yeah, the restrooms won't be up and running, I guess.
Sure, and if I do call and they say we're going to be open, I would advise them contact your health department so they can do the correct, inspections before it opens.
Okay, thanks.
Have we heard anything about our hotels and everything, if they're already booked?
They're about 75–80% booked. Obviously, the prices will increase for the weekend, and most of them are doing you have to stay for 2 or 3 night kind of package. It's not just a 1-night thing again.
Okay. Any other questions for Dan? No? Okay, moving right on. Planning and Community Development Department update?
Well, we had a lot going on with transportation, so I know Heather's got a little bit. Does she have a separate bullet on there, or kick it over to her?
Nope.
Okay, go ahead, Heather.
I only need 15 copies.
Okay.
Some math people, but we can, I want to take one and pass it around. There are, on the first page, you'll see there's about 5 different script options or font options, and we can mix and match those font options. And there's alternate bus designs. So you'll see a lighthouse, you'll see a salmon fish, and some people think it's creepy, that's why I'm laughing. And then there's one that just has a sunset. But they're very bright and very colorful, and people are not going to miss these in the snow.
Can we have different ones, or are we all stuck in just all one? You know what I'm saying? Do we have to, all of them have to be the fish, all of them have to be that, or can we have a little bit of?
No, they told us we can mix and match them, so, if we have 2 buses that are 32 passenger, and then the later, the smaller buses are 16 passengers, so if you wanted to do like the lighthouse on the larger buses and the fish on the smaller buses, you can do that. So if you guys can go.
Don't get mixed up with those real buses.
It's not, I wish it was a local, and it isn't. They are New York State. I was hoping that we would get them in Oswego County, but it isn't. Right, and he was part of the bid, but he was way higher.
Twice the amount. He bid like double of what the other provider did. It was quite different.
Same vinyls, everything.
Everything, yeah, same request. We went out to Art P for it.
Have you seen this guy's work?
Our buses are currently wrapped by this provider, so they're familiar with our fleet. It's just the bus wraps right now are very minimal.
Yeah. Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. It's Upward Graphics, because I drive by it all the time. And I saw their but I was disappointed when I saw they were twice as expensive.
Yes.
Are you going to have a contest, or how are you going to choose?
Say no. Well, that's fine bringing it here.
I think the big fish is kind of cool.
I like Mel's idea, mix it up.
Yeah.
People get bored with the same thing.
Right, yeah. I love the lighthouse, I love the fish. I don't know about the sunset, it's kind of blah.
I mean, we can let the fish be on the buses that go to like Pulaski, and the lighthouse can be the bus that goes from like Oswego to DSS, because it's more like, you know.
It's almost like with like school buses, the yellow school buses, they have the animals on it so the kids know which one's there. Like you have the one that's for the new breed and black.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah, in my opinion, going forward, the big fish might be a little much. The smaller fish is a lot, but the big fish is kind of like, whoa. Yeah, but,
yeah, but that's what it's all about.
It is about
big
fish.
Sure.
Yeah, we do have big fish.
I got the script. We gotta pick the script is big too. Like the one that I like the Oswego, that's A on the first, but I like the public transit, that's the letter, is that E? Like I like Oswego how it's written in A, but I like how public transit is written in E. Because I think the underline can get lost.
Look at them quick and see what your eye grabs. I don't know, I think that's simple to read.
Can you read it? That's important.
Yeah, well, I agree that the word public transit needs to be very prominent.
Clean, quick.
Yeah.
If you just look through them quick, see what your eye grabs.
And the same with the URL for the county transportation website. Well, they just need to stand out. We need to make it clear. And I kind of like the idea of Oswego County being in the same font as well, instead of just Oswego and then county public transit.
Yeah, you don't want people to think it's Oswego City.
Yeah,
it's
so
Oswego County.
I think I agree with
Is it possible to do a QR code on a
shot about the?
Yes.
We never agree.
That could be somebody in
Which one?
With the writing.
Yeah.
Wait,
So,
The bottom one of the
I was in
lighthouse.
Denver almost.
What? talking the bottom, yeah.
Yeah,
talking, just talking the letter.
Clean, yeah.
yeah.
We're also going to add, you guys notice, like, we put the county seal on our buses. So we will be able to identify our buses.
I like that idea.
Yeah, yeah. The seal on it, yeah.
The back of the bus isn't shown here, but we are going to be putting how are we doing on the back of the bus, and we're going to be connecting a comment section on the county website page that we've created so that, you know, whether it's a phone number or, you know, we're still working on that portion, but we will be able to have access to get that feedback directly.
Yeah, one of the things that we've heard from New York State oversight is a reminder that we are their client, and then we, you know, obviously have a vendor that put it out to, which has been OCO for a long time. And so one of the things that Heather's been tasked with and done an amazing job is making sure that everything comes back to us. The website, right? In the past, it was an OTO website, not anymore. It's a county website. The phone number, it was OTO, not anymore. It's going to come to us, right? Because we're the ones ultimately responsible. It's going to be our face, and that's why it's so important to have these buses show this is Oswego County public transit. So that's what I think we've seen, and they're going to be substantially different than OTO and different than Centra. People will know that this isn't just some random rented bus, you know, or what's an OPT, right? That's what we've heard. So
Yeah.
they're going to know this is their public transit.
Yeah. And it could be a different vendor in the future. We don't, you know, there could always be the opportunity that, you know, we have a different vendor one year.
So, have you gotten any hint as to how we're all leaning? Do you feel confident in what you're doing here?
I feel like we want both designs.
Yeah, and I think everybody would agreement with that. Yeah, a little
And we want the
variety.
same font all the way across.
Well, this one I like.
Yeah,
That one.
Oswego County, so you know it's a county bound.
yeah, we have to have Oswego County both the same size.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, to be honest, I almost think that if you shrank Oswego County a little bit and made public transit just about the same size, I just think it's important to say, hey, this is public transportation, everybody, you know?
I don't know if you, no,
It's the advertising.
it is.
Yeah, keep in mind that most people, unless the bus is at a bus stop, most people are only going to see this for a few seconds, so whatever font you choose, it's got to be readable within that really short window that people have as it's going by them or they're going by it.
Cleaner the better, I think.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to take this back from you.
That's
Just give you another one.
You're fine.
Well, I can't wait for this because that's one of the reasons that I started actually with public transportation was because I thought it was physical therapy, OPT. So occupational physical therapy with OPT buses. I had no idea it was public transportation until I became a legislator and started seeing this.
Right, I thought it was OCO buses.
Yeah, I had no idea. And I think there's a lot of people out there that think that's just a special bus for somebody that needs a special service, not for anybody. This is great. This is absolutely, I just absolutely love it.
It'd be great for farmers market too.
Yes, yes, and yes. Any other comments towards this?
I have a question based on bidding. So this individual bid from Farmington, New York. We have a definition of most responsible bidder. Who ultimately determines and what people are on it? Who determines most responsible bidder? Because I've seen us take a higher number based on a most responsible bidder. Can I have a definition of that?
I would say that Holly, our purchasing department right there.
The lowest responsible bidder. So you can have a very low bid, but we check out the vendors. There are websites that we can go to check out and make sure that they're in compliance with all state laws, federal laws. So you might get a vendor that's in bad standing with New York State. So even though they bid low, they wouldn't be the lowest responsible bidder.
Who determines this?
Well, purchasing checks to see if they have any infractions with the state or federal government, and then usually well, a bid is different than an RFP. They don't have a committee, but I'll go back to the department head and ask them for some input. So for instance, we have a bid coming up this afternoon with refined oil, and we sent the bid out, and it was, well, you remember that, right?
Mhm.
And so one company got upset with us because they wanted us to buy refined oil. And Sean said, I don't want refined oil.
No.
Refined once is enough. So we put it back out to bid and said refined oil, and this vendor got upset with us.
Yep.
So, you know, I went to Rich and I said, what do you want to do? And he says, we have every right to have our own specifications. So they were lower, but they were going to sell us something we didn't want.
Okay. So it boils down to two people. The department head.
Mm-hmm. And the
Your
purchasing department in conjunction with Rich Mitchell.
And in this particular case, it has to meet the state and federal procurement requirements. We have more flexibility if we're just buying something with our own money for our own use, but when we're using state and federal funds, they're pretty porky about their procurement, and they check everything several times.
As well they should be.
Right.
Most responsible bidder, I don't know. I think it gives wiggle room.
It's lowest responsible bidder.
So it'll always be the lowest number, most responsible. So somebody could be thrown out if they've got, and we can ask.
Some strikes against, or for instance, we have a vendor that plows DSS's parking lot, and they're really upset with them, and they didn't want them to participate in the new bid, but we said you never ever gave any information to Rich or purchasing, so we have nothing to stand on. So if you have a vendor that you've hired and they've done a poor job, then we need to start sending them letters and contacting them and building a file. So if we put this out to bid again, we're definitely not going to use that vendor. They will be excluded. So that's why we say responsible.
Interesting though.
But we'd have to build a big case where, you know, we would not throw somebody out and just say it. There would have to be proof there.
Thank you.
To enter into that with the snow plowing, we had bidders come. Lowest bidder for hiring a payloader was like $35 an hour. And you know you can't run a payloader with an operator for $35 an hour. But the rest of them, the other three we had, they were all within dollars of one another. But the slowest bidder, like, and I think we had him in the past. That's why we took the next highest bidder. I can't remember what
No, we
it
took
was,
him.
but
We took the
that's
lowest
why
bidder.
that's on there is the least reliable possible bidder. So if you know that somebody's, you know, lowballing you, you really don't want that person. Get a blizzard, you got to hire a payloader for, you know, $35 an hour. I don't think so. So that's why it goes back and we had to figure out which one we really want.
Still, I don't know. I still think it's interesting. It's a way of wiggling out of the for the county. That's something. Just my opinion.
Any other comments?
Dave?
Dave, sorry.
Yeah, sure. I'm probably someone who would argue hard for spending our money locally. But having a decade or more of experience with the federal grants, I can tell you that if you decided to not use a low bidder in this case, you're going to need a very strong record for the state and federal government to reimburse you for this cost when you throw out the low bidder.
Well,
And if you have that record, that's fine. But if you don't, then you may end up paying for this out of your own pocket.
my question in general, I said to Mel, I was asking for a definition of most responsible bidder. I was not referencing the rep, although I always favor local people.
Right.
Because we need local tax dollars, skin in the game for Oswego County.
I agree.
Still not doing great, regardless of whatever. I just want to research this a little more in depth. I don't know how crazy I am about it.
Right?
Holly, the most important part of this whole question is the responsible bidder.
Correct.
Okay, not the high or the low. We're not asking that. Okay. Yeah, we'd like to see local. Everybody here would like to see local. Yes. Okay. But is the person that we're picking, what are we using as a guideline? I know that we've got state requirements, stuff like that. Okay. But what are we using if it's not to say this person is more responsible?
Well, we don't know. Okay.
You know what I'm saying? No, I mean,
we don't do it that way.
Paul might be doing something, but he's not. You know, he did six times out of 10 he doesn't show up for the job. You show up every time. You've got more qualifications and stuff like that. So who's the responsible bidder? He's lower than her, but we take the most responsible. That's what I'm asking.
Right. We don't say most responsible. We say lowest responsible bidder.
Lowest responsible. Still responsible.
Since I've been here, we have never not taken the lowest bid. They've all been responsible bids. Now, we may rebid, or we've had a problem where we're buying equipment and someone was lower, but it didn't meet the specifications, which is different. If we're ordering or buying something.
It's just that term.
Lowest responsible, yeah.
The responsible part. Not, you can't, if you can separate them, it's a lot better, but because you're saying the responsible in there, that's where the question is in us. How are you saying that, Paul over there is more responsible than me? Okay? How can you say that? That's what I mean.
Yeah, we don't, no, that's not what we mean. We mean that they met all the qualifications, that they don't have any dings on their record. That's what we mean.
That's what I would say, more the lowest qualified bidder is what I would say. It's not responsible, because responsible throws, the term out there and say, how do you know I'm, not as responsible as Paul? How do you know, Mr. House is more responsible than me? Okay? That's all. That's the question. I'll turn it over to.
Right. Well, Holly, what I've seen in contracts over the years, consistently, we'll take a lot of times the lowest bidder, but then we end up in time and material a lot, and the time and material line is always the highest one. If you look through the contract, and it's a failure to get into time and material on a contract, in my opinion.
Yes, and you're right, and I've seen where, and that's more with RFPs and stuff, more with the engineers, that we have to be more careful, because they will lowball us, and then and then all of a sudden it's like change order after change order after change order.
Can't do it. I mean, you got to stick to the project to the end. It ends up costing a fortune. That's my opinion.
Okay, I think we got a little verbiage here that it doesn't fit what Frank is wanting. He doesn't like the word responsible. But is there any other comments or any questions for Holly or? Okay, are we all done unless you have something else?
So real quick, we are still obviously going on with our comprehensive planning discussion. We are actively discussing towns and villages. Their plans, because as we talked about here at the county, we are not just a county. We're a county made up of other people's municipalities. That's really how it works. And so we want to make sure we don't put out a plan and say, hey, here's your plan, drive up, right? No, we need to work with them to put together the county plan. So those are all conversations that are ongoing. I know our Street Initiatives is working on that as well. And we've been working with a lot of our local planners, town boards. And one kind of exciting thing, the legislature passed a revision to the 239 review a couple of months ago. We are in the process of putting together, through our planning office, I want to say it's a presentation, but it'll be available to any town board member, council, planning board members, zoning board members, county, town attorneys, and it's going to be giving them an update on what we are doing at the county, what requirements we have, and then also kind of some reasoning. We're going to talk about micron, we're going to talk about some other concerns we've been seeing. So one of the things that we're really looking to do is have I would say a better ongoing conversation with the towns and villages and their boards. So something, make sure they understand what the county's doing, make sure we understand what they're looking for.
Frank.
Comprehensive plan. It's a key point right now. What is there in your comprehensive plans that the county has? What is there any language in there about affordable housing in the comprehensive plan. The reason I'm asking is right now in the city of Fulton, we're going through a lot of things. Most of it is all in my district, the DRI. Right? It all is in my district. And the comprehensive plan in Fulton is not conducive to what the DRI people are saying that the zoning should be. And the comprehensive plan came off codes, which is where it should come off, correct?
All the way around, right. The codes come off the comprehensive plan.
That's what I'm saying. Oh, codes come off comprehensive plan?
Right.
I thought you told me it was the other way though.
No.
Okay, all right. All right, so what do you got, on the comprehensive plan for affordable housing? Is there anything in there that relate to anything like that? Not that I'm in favor of, everybody knows I'm not in favor of affordable housing, okay? So don't think I'm pushing for affordable housing. I just want to see what you have.
So what I will say is that the comprehensive plan is made up of a number of things, right? It's not just one thing, it's not one piece, it's everything. It's the document that you're going to use to govern how this community wants to see their future. And they're going to use that to go out and get the funds from whatever the funding agency, our state, federal, maybe some local, to put together a plan and see it through. Many of the funding agencies will not support you if they can't see a plan in place. They're going to say, well, this current leadership wants this, and then next week they'll want this, and no, they want something that governs your direction. Housing is one of those things, without a doubt, and it's an important one. In fact, we've been working through this county micron steering committees, and I happen to chair the housing portion of it. There's a lot of different pieces. There's workforce. There's a whole lot, and actually in partnership with the SUNY, we're going to be releasing a document here shortly highlighting all that information. But specifically to your question about what the county's plan for housing is, we've been talking in partnership with the IDA Operations Oswego County, as well as what we've seen regional, is putting together a housing study. We need to know what our county wants to see, what we need. What is our community makeup? What is it going to be? And then is there places for these people to safely live? So Central New York is in the process, Austin, correct me if I'm wrong, but of putting together their own study. We don't necessarily want to just leave it in their hands. As we've seen, very few of us are getting involved in that conversation currently, and so we don't necessarily want Central New York to pick what Oswego County wants. So we're in the process of putting that together in partnership with them. Dave, I don't know if there's kind of more thoughts on the housing front that you've run into with strategic initiatives?
Well, that housing specifically, but the question of the comprehensive plans. New York's a home rule state, so it goes, all the local guidelines and codes where they exist go down to each municipality. The county can't dictate to a town, village, or city what they should have in their code or what their comprehensive plan could be. You would hope that your plans would have similar priorities, because they're supposed to be driven by public participation. So they're built really from the ground up. And if people in Fulton feel differently than the people in Pulaski, that's okay in New York. Pulaski can say red is black and Fulton can say black is gray. That's okay. In New York State, the local municipality has a say. So while our plan could have certain guidelines and suggested priorities for housing, Fulton's plan could be 100% different than ours. It really, you would hope that as the public comes forward in the process of developing these plans, you would have similar feelings, but from experience from living here that that's just not true. And that's why codes are different from one town or village to the next. So the county is only an advisory entity in the planning world in New York, because we have home rule.
But we do also, I think the advisory is an important piece of it, because you can see as an advisory as someone just doing the right? People have advisory opinions and you'd be like, well, that doesn't work with us, we're not interested. And the state allows that through the 239 review process. But one interesting piece is that we do bring a breadth of knowledge and experience. We've got two planners currently in our office who have 30 years of experience, right? They know the way that the state has worked, they know the counties work, and they have relationships with our town and villages. Fortunately, sometimes town and villages planning boards can turn over. I know a number of them that have more than 50% turnover in the last 3 or 4 years. And you lose a lot of experience in your community with that. So one of the things that we're looking to offer is maybe best practices. We're not going to tell you how to do it in Fulton or anywhere else. We're going to say, hey, just so you know, there's this really cool program or this way of doing things right next door or across the county. One example, if I could, accessory dwelling units. Everybody's familiar with accessory dwelling units. It's people do believe there needs to be more housing, right? We need more safe housing. Well, this is a way to allow for not necessarily in-laws apartments, but smaller rental places that can be kept up by a homeowner, but they're being treated a little differently in the state. The zoning is being treated a little bit differently. They're not necessarily being seen as two-family homes. They're not a typical apartment or duplex. It's a way, when someone rents out, fixes up their garage and they rent out an apartment above it. But it's treated differently. And if you haven't updated your zoning, you may not allow something like that. But you may actually want something like that. We're dealing with something similar at Central Square right now, where they didn't have that language. Hastings has that language. They're like, oh, that's a really cool program, a good way to offer something in a way that doesn't change maybe the way our community looks. Maybe we don't want to open this up to multifamily, but we'd be open with accessory dwelling units. So it's conversations like that where you can bring best practices from one community to another one to help them shape the way the future is going to look.
I think the county is being used as a clearinghouse of all the ideas that are in the county, and thereby in the presentation that you're going to be giving them to be able to share some of things. And knowledge is power. It's options. It's what's worked and what hasn't worked. We all don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Just want to state, and I'll say it a little bit in my comments later, but I was at the governor's event in Syracuse yesterday doing the announcement for the DRI New York Forward, and the governor, in part of her comments, said specifically that future funding going to communities would prioritize to communities that adopt new housing and welcome new housing. So that's going to be related to Empire State Development, Department of State, local waterfront revitalization plans, all that stuff is going to be
They only
communities.
need low-income housing.
Well, I think
You want
that,
to ship immigrants up there.
yeah,
That's pay to play.
yeah.
It's only low-income housing. They're not
It's
going to.
one of those where I think the state is asking communities to adopt plans for new housing. Now, I don't know specifically what that's going to look like, what that's going to mean, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's a way to try to look at low-income housing. But I think that's something just to be aware of.
Or keep saying affordable.
Affordable workforce housing.
Don't misconstrue. They're going to tell you it's affordable.
Yeah.
We know what it is, but
I have a question for Justin. Justin, are we doing anything for people who have worked their entire life who possibly want like condominium housing, or I've seen it in Virginia, they do like beautiful, even different designs for seniors that can pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
We're not asking for anything for the state, just ease of housing to keep tax dollars here. They may want to go to Florida for 3 or 4 months and not have to deal with a property,
It's happened in certain places and pockets. It's difficult to, it's not a program that there's a lot of programs to assist it. So it's one of those that would have to be strictly work on a market basis. It'd have to be a feasible market project, specifically condos. But it's happened in certain communities. It's happened in the city of Fulton. It's happened out in Village of Cleveland, actually. They built those right there on the lake. I know places have looked at it in Pulaski. They're looking at it in some other places. So I think if there's a market for it, I think it's something that could work. And getting back to...
But the state doesn't offer funding.
No, well, they wouldn't either. And I don't think they should for something like that. But what I would say is that one of the areas that I would look at for, if you're looking to do low-income or affordable housing, one of the areas specifically to look at for is on the senior housing side. Because if you're looking to try to open up single-family housing units in your communities, one of the best ways to do that is to build a senior housing facility so people can age in the place that they grew up in, the place that they live. They don't have to go to Syracuse or some other community to live out their life. So. And then that also then helps to open up residences, single-family residences in communities that don't have areas to build new housing. So places like Phoenix and Pulaski and other places where available land may be at a premium. So that is, I would look and say, if you're looking at doing things, try to put up guardrails and control. Be proactive about what you allow, what you accept, and something like that, where you say, we don't accept this, but that is something we're okay with. That is something we're okay with, and we can kind of control it.
I guess we would start the conversation with the state of home rule.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we are, a home rule state, and the state, don't forget it. We're the ones that make that decision. Any other question? Right.
Well, so at Human Services yesterday, Stacy Alvord said that they're only providing the state is only providing $440 a month for rent for people on services. And she said it's been like that for an amazingly long time. So it's kind of funny that the state wants to try to force us to make low-income housing, but they're only trying to pay an amount of money that doesn't pay for an apartment now. You know, and this is not helping the homeless situation right now.
But I only speak from experience because I ran a housing authority. The past governor got rid of public housing. And now we have a lot of homeless that can't afford anything, and DSS pays a horribly small amount of money to landlords to house people, homeless people, but they'll put them up in hotels and spend a ton more money.
Well, because when they're forced to, and that was the strange dichotomy, is that if they put them up in a hotel and it costs $4,000, up to $4,000 a month, the state will still gladly pay that.
But they won't raise
but
the fee to the landlords.
But they won't raise the amount that they pay per, for someone to be in a, and this is for, people who are disabled, can't work, and.
But the other thing that the state does is it requires you to advertise your property, your low-income property, or affordable, outside of the county. Because when we rehabbed one of the apartments in Fulton, I had to advertise and send letters out past Oswego County. So I think we want to help the people up here first.
I will say the HUD payment is higher than that, so that's a picture of the DSS payment. HUD is still paying substantially more.
How long is the waiting list?
Yeah, Oswego County, about 18 months right now.
Love the state.
Yeah, wisdom of the state. Any other questions for planning?
And then my last one is I did want to introduce Kyle Perez. He is our new, through the Youth Bureau and Parks and Rec Department, Coordinator of Recreational Youth Development. He's going to be helping to oversee Camp Derby as well as some of our other county-owned recreational properties. Field and our site trail, Independence Trail. So the legislature funded that position in last year's budget and has I think started to really look a little more into the Parks and Rec. We've also talked about getting highest and best use of the properties the county owns. And so we're in partnership with Joe Chapellotti and others. We're really trying to come up with I think a real good plan, right? We're planning how we better use the land that we have, the staff that we have to serve our residents and those who we're hoping to attract here with Micron coming. We know we're not going to get 100% of the new people living in Oswego County, but man, we'd love to get them coming up here using our trails, snowmobiling up here, fishing, and all those other things. So excited to have Kyle with us.
Playing frisbee golf.
Playing frisbee golf. Absolutely.
Do you have any comments?
No, I'm excited to get started, and I have a big vision as well as I believe all of you do for how we can better involve our community and some of our facilities. So Legends Field specifically is one that's near and dear to me. I'm a baseball, softball guy, so I'm excited.
All right. Okay.
Not it's a snagging one.
I know, but Greg, what's the big word down? Okay, Operation Oswego County, Austin.
Sure, so I've got a few things I wanted to talk about. So I kind of alluded to it in my comments earlier. So yesterday, the Brewerton, which is the hamlet of Brewerton, both on the town of Hastings side and the town of Cicero side, won the $4.5 million New York Forward. So that's excellent news for Oswego County. The next steps are to form the local planning commission, which will be made up of both people from, it's going to be interesting, it's the first time I think this has ever happened in the history of both DRI and New York Forward. We're a community that shares, it's not just intermunicipal, it's inter-county. It's going to be both on the Onondaga and the Oswego County side, so that'll be interesting and kind of give us a little playbook of how to work together better on some other initiatives, since we're kind of forced to on this one. They're going to be also looking to tighten the boundaries on that application because it included both boundaries on both the Onondaga and Oswego County side. Since it's $4.5 million, they're going to really have to kind of tighten that up to make sure that they can spend $4.5 million the best they can. And then outreach to businesses in the area on both sides of the river there so that they're aware that obviously they had already identified projects, but what happens in the New York Forward DRI is that they like your idea, that doesn't necessarily mean those are the only projects that can be funded. They'll kind of do another new call for projects, probably, I would say, based on the way we did it for Phoenix, it's probably going to start in like May, and then it'll conclude in July, and then if it works the same way, we'll be wrapping up that process down there in about late October, November. So that's good news. Village of Phoenix, in terms of their $4.5 million they won through New York Forward, 15 projects were submitted in November for that, for about $6.5 million. We should hear very soon. I just talked to our Department of State representative yesterday at that event. They said probably late February, early March, we'll be finding out which projects will be selected for funding. So that will then start the implementation shortly after that. I also want to let you know, and we actually weren't able to bring her here today, but I'll bring her to the meeting in March. We made a new hire, Alexandra Fitzpatrick, for our marketing and communications position. She has 9 years of experience in marketing and sales and has worked directly with communities and economic development and community development in the past in Oswego County. Knows all the stakeholders and players, so she's going to be hitting the ground running very shortly. Next week we'll be, we're sending a team to the New York State Economic Development Council Conference in Albany. They have some great things going on at that. One of them in particular is site development with Empire State Development for Fast New York is going to be there. So we'll be getting some face time in front of them. Also, they have some seminars on economic development, marketing, and strategic communications, as well as placemaking and community revitalization. So all the things that are very important to us at this time. We are, through the IDA, we are going to be submitting a USDA Rural Business Development Grant application later this month for a manufacturing project for not to exceed $99,500. We are moving forward with site plan approval for the Oswego County expansion site down at the Industrial Park in Phoenix. We're going to be submitting that to the town of Schuylkill to be able to move forward on to get to the next step there in terms of getting funding and pushing that project forward. The Operation Oswego County Real Estate Development Committee in the month of January approved 3 projects at the Industrial Park in Phoenix. So just we're running out of space down there. FabSite Industries, ACLS, and DNS. Well, actually, DNS Landscaping is at the Airport Industrial Park. They're expanding down there. So 2 projects at the Oswego County Industrial Park, and then 1 at the Airport Industrial Park. And then we also, hopefully you all received the newsletter, the January newsletter from Operation Oswego County. One of the things in there that I wanted to also bring to your attention, because I know that this committee was very interested in it as well, is that the IDA is supporting the city CMA lab, the Manufacturing Automation Lab, with $100,000 in financial assistance. And I know that's partnering with the county and their financial assistance that they're providing to that project. So hopefully we have a very strong application to the state to get that $1.4 million project done, which will really help the students out at that are going through the P-TECH to get the education and utilizing the modern equipment that they need to be able to integrate into manufacturing. So that's sort of the really quick. I wanted to go through everything. If there's any questions on any of those items or anything else.
You said that the industrial park's running out of room.
Yeah, so down in the existing industrial park down in Phoenix, we currently have about 30-ish acres of developable property that is left. Of that,
the extension.
Well, the expansion is that's another thing. That's the reason we need to get the infrastructure and the roads into that expansion, because we're running out of room in the existing park. Okay. So, well, I mean, we've talked to people in the recent past that if any of these things come to fruition, that may go quick, but. Okay. But that's one of those where, you know, it's a chicken or egg, you know, like people aren't going to commit until you have the infrastructure in place, and some of these things on the infrastructure side are like, well, tell us who's coming in, and we can tell you, can we serve them, and so we're breaking through those chicken or eggs. But no, it's all positive, good information going on. You know, another thing that we're not directly involved in on this committee, but I know Frank is interested and involved down in the city of Fulton, as the city of Fulton has reconstituted their DRI committee down there. I think they just reinstituted that. It was either earlier this month or it was last month. It was last month.
This month.
Yeah. Okay. So it's going to go to vote, and so that should be getting a lot of the things going on that, and you know, it's called the decision-making committee, but it's more of like a communication and implementation committee to make sure to get those projects back on track and to help on a lot of those public sector projects that they have. So So excited to see that.
One thing to remind everyone is that when we send them to Albany, like New York Forward sends 15 projects to Albany, the entity cannot say, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The state just determines the priority. You can't set the priority, which blows my mind, that the local entity should be able to say, no, this is really the one that's most important to us. They can't. The state just decides.
That's why we with Phoenix tried to cut it down as small as possible so that because they said, well, you could submit anywhere between $6 million and $9 million of projects. But if you send $9 million of projects, you have 4.5, they have a lot of latitude to decide who they want. If you send $6 million, they don't have a lot they can remove without getting what you want done.
Yeah. Right.
Just a quick question. What is the status of the sewage treatment plant? It's a former Miller site. Did the IDA acquire that?
The IDA has owned that for several years. We're actually, glad you brought it up, we're actually working with Oswego County right now. We're having some environmental work done to determine if that is a brownfield site, which could then help with future development for private sector developers being able to use brownfield tax credits to redevelop it. So when we originally acquired that site, the IDA, along with the county, did a study looking at the potential to redevelop that as a municipal wastewater treatment, like a regional wastewater treatment plant.
It's a huge plant.
It's massive. The challenge with it is that it hasn't run as a plant since about 1995.
I'd heard that it has been semi-destroyed and pipe stolen.
Over the history of it, from when it was owned by the Riverview, when it was owned by the county, and then even when the IDA originally took possession, there were a lot of people who were stealing scrap metal and just I mean, at this point, it's not really it's not a wastewater plant anymore. It's an industrial site that has also a potential outflow for somebody to do treatment, their own treatment on site. But
so a brownfield would qualify if there were toxic waste in the past?
If there were, so say like the substation that's on site, if there were like PCBs that had leaked out of that the transformers and things that were on site, if DEC was to determine that there had been any oil spills or other things like that, it doesn't necessarily have to be toxic. It could be something to the level of asbestos or minor oil spills or other things like that would have a potential cleanup cost. So we're working with the county right now to do a phase 1. I've talked to Jordan Birdie with CNS who's doing it, and they said it shouldn't take more than 30 to 45 days to that site. So hopefully, maybe not by this time next month, but by middle of March we'll have that phase 1.
Thank you.
Any other questions for us? Greg?
I have to correct myself, Austin. It was January.
Okay.
When they passed the last meeting in January. When they passed it.
I knew it was coming up. I didn't know if it already had done.
But I have a couple questions, concerns. First up is you talked about the property that the IDA acquired in Phoenix, Schuylkill. You're talking about the infrastructure. What do you plan on doing with that to get the infrastructure in there? Are you going to build on it, or are you going to sell parts of it?
It's going to be sold. It's going to be sold to the private sector. Yeah. So really, the only thing that we would own at that point is any undeveloped sites, and then the road infrastructure would be most likely turned over to the county and become an extension of County Route 59. And then the infrastructure would be owned by the entities that. So it'd probably be like sewer and water would be the town of Schuylkill. Obviously, National Grid would own their own electric and gas infrastructure, and so we would only own sites that are undeveloped. Similar to we currently. Well, let me back up a little. We currently do not have any plans to do any spec buildings on that site. So a building that we would build and then lease to the private sector to utilize. So as of now, 100% of the property is being proposed for entities that would be private sector owned.
Second part of the question. City of Fulton, Nestle site.
Yep.
The IDA operations purchased
3 acres. Yeah.
3 acres there. You're trying to move it, which I got no problem with moving it. Okay, I had a problem with
potentially move it.
I had a problem with you guys buying it in the first place, but what are you doing as far as development of it?
Sure. So
that's part of the IDA, part of the DRI, and it doesn't have to be rezoned for anything for what you guys said you were going to do.
Right.
So I'm looking to see what are you going to do, because I'm on that committee now, and gonna be pushing you to do it. So.
Okay, well, it's, I'm glad you asked. So, what we're looking at right now, so originally when that project was submitted, it was a $4.3 million project. This was pre-COVID. Post-COVID, the project cost ballooned to about $5.6 million. There's currently a project gap of about $1.5 million in terms of money that has been committed to the project and grant funding. So what we are considering right now, and this might be something you like, let me know, is we also, because of the IDA, we're held to, we would have to pay prevailing wages for a project because we're a public entity. If somebody in the private sector owned it, they would not have to do that. And that's, I've also run it by the state, and the state says our grant funds have nothing related to prevailing wages, that only just the MWB requirements. The other thing that is a challenge to the IDA owning it is that we are not eligible for brownfield tax credits. We know that that's a brownfield site. The whole Nestle site's a brownfield site. So the 3 acres we have and then the 12 plus acres that the city has. So we can't take advantage of brownfield credits even though we would be responsible for cleaning up any brownfield things related. So what I have proposed to the IDA, and I think that what we are looking to do at this point, and I've already run it by Empire State Development and Department of State, and they're both comfortable, is to say, we would like to see a 30,000 square foot manufacturing facility built on that site. However, it doesn't have to be built by us, doesn't have to be owned by us. What I'm looking to do is put together an RFP to go out to the private sector and say, give us the best possible, what you can do. So it could be 30,000 square feet, maybe you propose to do 35,000, maybe you propose to do 40,000. And what we would do is we'll select the best one and we will we will assign our grants that we've got $1.7 million through CFA and DRI. Let you build a project, and then you can also get the brownfield tax credits. And the project will be then owned by the private sector.
I'm just looking forward to get back on the tax rolls.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, that would do that because it would not be owned by the IDA at that point. It would be owned by the private sector. But they would build the project we wanted to have built.
Make me happy.
All right. It's hard to do, Frank.
Well, now, we accomplished that. I want to write that down someplace.
So, but I didn't do that for you. That was just the best.
Well, I think that's great, though. You're taking stuff right off the shelf that you can't use, and you're putting it out there. So
we tried to figure this out 5 different ways of how do you fill in a gap on a project. Couldn't figure it out, and said, okay, so turn it to the private sector. They can use programs we can't. We can take the grants that we've already secured, assign them to them, and then get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I love having the private sector. Okay, any other? Yes, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Austin, or should I call you Justin? Sorry. No, Austin. Kidding.
It's okay. It's not. It happens.
It happens. Exactly. Before COVID, we were contracted with Center State CEO to to work with the strategic economic advancement plan and to try to, and we had several groups working. In particular, there was an ag group that was really doing great stuff. And then all of that fell to the wayside.
Yeah.
Where do we stand with the, being able to dust off that plan, or is all these meetings that have to do with Micron, is that taking the place of that, or?
That's a good question. I think that Micron stuff's sort of been prioritized, and then some of the other things, I wouldn't say have been deprioritized. One of the other things that sort of hurt that is that Tim Hardy was one of the ones working on a lot of that, and he worked at Addis, and when Addis closed down in 2020, some of the people who were ahead of that, it sort of fizzled. I think that's something we should definitely look at bringing back on the ag side for sure.
So I guess the reason I brought it up, because that was a really happening little committee. I mean, they were doing all kinds of stuff. I don't know what kind of, if we have minutes and names of people that were involved, but agricultural economic development, I don't want to see that fall to the wayside as we're pushing so hard for this other stuff happening with Micron, because we have so much, so much agriculture here in the county, and it's such a big part of our economy here. So I'm wondering if we should try to set up some sort of an advisory committee that would, could complement what you guys are doing, similar to what was happening before, to kind of restart some of that stuff.
It's a great idea. And I do want to just say, we have been doing agricultural related projects. Actually, later this week on Wednesday, we have an ESD grant closing for Maple Hollow Farms in Hannibal It's a project that we've assisted several times now, and we've assisted some other ones. So we are, but it's not in sort of a larger overall kind of, hey, how do you coordinate this at county level? So I think that's a great idea, and would welcome.
Well, and there is a lot to the Strategic Economic Advancement Plan, and we haven't really dusted it off in a while and kind of revisited where we are with that, and you know how we move forward. And it would just be, I think this committee can. Maybe this committee can be part of that advisory kind of thing, or you know, we can kind of restart some of those, just to communicate what's going on and try to, you know, we were engaged with Cornell Cooperative Extension with that as well, and it was pretty interesting. On another angle of that same concept, though, but you know, not to do with agriculture, do we have an ongoing outreach to the nuclear organizations about the potential for next-gen nukes and stuff like that? Anything happening on that front?
Yeah, well, I mean, I can say this, and I know Gary Toth, who recently stepped down as chair of the IDA, also has been involved in these processes. Is that we've been in communications with Constellation, with Rich and Maria over there about. You know, a lot of their recent discussions have been more related to the relicensing and making sure that the zero emission credits, the ZECs, are sort of renewed by the state. You know, so I think that while we have talked to them about expansion, they're saying, hey, we want to prioritize making sure we can get these things extended as part of our talking about any expansion. So their priority on their end is making sure that those things are extended, and then, you know, their discussion from that point is, let's talk about the next one, because a next one doesn't make sense if they can't get what they need for the current ones to continue. But yes, those conversations are happening. I
think that it's becoming more of a reality to a lot of people that the idea of net zero is never going to happen without nuclear.
Exactly.
And so just to be able to have them understand that, you know, we're supportive here in the county of them if they ever start to think about that, to me is just, you know, looking forward, saying, yes, we support you in your relicensing work, but we also want you to know that the county is supportive of you considering us, because where else is next gen ever going to happen, you know, in anywhere in the Northeast.
There's no other communities. I mean, I would say us and Gannett are like really the only communities in the county or in the state at this point that support it, because we understand it, we know what the benefits are, and we understand the risks, and we're okay with it. So, yeah, I agree.
Thank you.
I don't know if we're okay with it, but we accept it.
Yeah.
Dave?
Yeah, just follow up on Roy's comments, work backwards. We have a really good, I think Gary and Austin would agree, really good relationship with your government affairs people. Talk to them on a really regular basis. I send grants, opportunities, not only internally to our department heads, but also to private sector partners like Constellation and Novalis, Hudabaki, University. So we're always talking to them about opportunities to grow and go forward. On the ag piece, I believe we fund a position at Cornell Cooperative Extension called Agricultural Economic Development Specialist or something like that. We have for several years. I think if, you know, we're trying to kick that up a notch, it'd be good to hear what they're doing with our money and maybe make them part of this team if we're going to reinstitute some emphasis on agricultural economic development. It'd be nice to know how they're spending our money and how that fits into our plan. And with regard to the strategic advancement plan, we reference that all the time when we're talking to project people, talking to state people, grants that we're looking for. Gary and Austin and I and others are like, oh yeah, well, this is consistent with the plan. It's not so much that we're like taking the plan piece by piece and trying to drive individually, but making sure that when we do see opportunities, we go back to that as a reference tool because of the way it was developed with public participation and adopted by the county as an official document. That adds juice to our requests when we're talking to builders, when we're talking to developers, when we're talking to grant funders. The real important part of that document is being able to reference back to it, not so much build from it.
Gary?
Yeah, I just want to add what Dave was saying. With the economic advancement plan that we partner with the county to fund and to develop. There's a lot of things that are going on, maybe not to the scale we'd like to have it going on, but the infrastructure work, partnering with different villages and towns to develop infrastructure. The town of Mexico is applying. We're close to finishing up our application for an agricultural grant, $50,000 with the town and the village to assess the town and how we can, promote agriculture without hindering development because of Micron. The portal is, we've reinvigorated the portal committee. We've got Constellation on board, Tim Stahl, Dave Turner, Maria Hudson from Constellation, and Pam Caracoli are going to be working on it, and Austin's going to be kind of leading the charge along with our new marketing director. And so things are happening, and you're right, COVID did kind of set that back a little bit, but we're slowly getting back into the important aspects of that economic plan, because we all said it was something that we needed to keep working on. So it's starting to come back to life, and we're doing it, but maybe not, like Dave said, is a big piece. It's a lot of little pieces that are coming together.
To Gary's point, this town and village of Mexico ag group, Joe Chevrolati's part of that. I'm part of that, and Cornell Cooperative folks, Paul and they're part of it as well. And so
it sounds like there's some of the same people
that's
that
what I
were
was
doing
gonna say.
it before. Okay.
As much as it's just currently town and village of Mexico, the people who are participating are countywide, and so we absolutely should be able to kind of bring that to other communities that are interested in possibly looking at it countywide as well, where it would apply. So, again, like we've seen a lot of times, these things haven't fallen apart. They're not missing, but sometimes the coordination piece is where we really need to start bringing people back to the table again.
Sounds like that advisory board is almost formed.
Yeah, well, I was just curious because I haven't heard anything. COVID put such a blind spot on so many things, and reduced the communication between silos, and just trying to restart some of those things.
And it is happening everywhere. It's coming together, but very slowly. It's threads. It's not. But that's a good idea, though, to have that as a new advisory board. And I believe if we wanted to even look into it to make it official, it would go to Jim. Because he's the one that does the advisory board, but we can suggest that we have members that would be interested.
I mean, the other thing we could do is we can ask that particular group to come and report to us sometimes here.
That's what I'm saying. It could be it's almost already formed, but it would be done. Gary?
And also to get back to Roy's question on next gen and the power plants and the future of nuclear generation in Oswego County. I do speak with Maria, Rich Varaletti, and a few others at the plants, on a regular basis. We talk about hydrogen, we talk about a lot of different things. If there's an interest in having somebody come and speak on behalf of those plants, I'm sure they'd be more than willing to address this committee or however they want to set it up. So
it would be interesting to have some representation here for them to stop in and give us an update as to where they're at, what are they thinking, what do they need. And that's an important part for our county. If we
and to understand that we're willing to partner in any way that we can.
Yeah.
They understand that very much, and we've shared that with them quite a bit. And the county did an amazing job along with the IDA a few years back when we did the campaign to keep the plants open, and they still appreciate everything that was done by Oswego County. So. But there are a lot of things that they're working on. Carbon Free New York was one of their big campaigns, but now that's kind of cooled off. They're looking back at the ZECs and everything to make sure they're in place. So relicensing is a possibility, which everything I've heard is definite a possibility.
That's good for us to be updated on all of that done right directly from the horse's mouth. Okay, any other questions for?
Mel, I just have a general question from a constituent, and he's an attorney, so I want it right. Why don't we have a simple website to access restaurant inspections? Onondaga County has a flawless, easy, fast one. How do we access ours? Does anybody know?
It would be the health department. Yeah.
So I just call them?
Yeah, well,
I think it's a computer question.
it wouldn't be on our tourism website, it would be on our own website, and it would still be, I would think, it would go under the health department, and then to have a link from there.
Can't find it.
Where does Onondaga County have theirs? Is it under the health department on their website?
Just walked in and said, find out. Okay. Okay. He's a foodie. He said, I want to know.
Okay. I'm thinking health department would be able to help right there.
Well, the health department would have the information, whether or not they put it up on their website.
Right, but maybe that's a suggestion that maybe they would like to do, but.
I think you're supposed to do it.
And there again, maybe they're already doing it.
Well, they do put it in the paper now, don't they?
No, they want it on the.
No, I agree. I think it should be.
I can't find it on our.
This is like 2 times today we agree. This is really.
New year. Great new year. Great new year.
If it's on there, it'd be under the environmental division. That's where they're inspecting.
There you go. Yeah, that's right. They go underneath that.
Yep.
Okay. Let's go right on to workforce development then.
All right. I only have 12 copies, so I'll get more next time. But I just wanted to share the flyer for our mini job fair. This is today from 11 to 1. But our business services rep, Amanda, she has been doing a great job. Back in November, she shifted to, instead of individual business recruitment, she's doing a monthly. It's the first Tuesday of the month. And it's different businesses every month, but this is the flyer. She just revamps it. But what we've been finding is instead of 1 or 2 candidates coming in for a business, we're getting a minimum of a dozen. We've gotten up to 20. And we've only done this since November. And the businesses have all been extremely happy with the quality of candidates that are coming in.
Good.
So this is, if you do hear from any businesses and they want to be involved, they can contact us. She's doing this on a monthly basis. We also right now are planning a job fair at Pulaski for in April, and we are planning a large job fair at the Lake Ontario Event Center for the beginning of May, and we'll hopefully be looking for anywhere from 40 to 50 businesses for that. And for that job fair, we are actually going to extend it. We're going to run it from 1 to 6. And the first 2 hours are going to be for high school students. So I met with Beaver Dogley, guidance counselors, on Friday, and they want to bring students actually to this fair today, but we were talking about having specifically for the high school students, especially in that May time frame when they're going to be graduating as a senior from all of the local districts, at the job fair in front of these businesses so that we can have a job lined up for when they cross the stage a month and a half after that.
Now, are they going to be instead of or in addition to your monthly ones, the mini ones?
In addition. In
addition to the minis. The minis just stay the same,
yeah.
And then you've got the larger ones.
Yep, the mini ones we do right in our career center,
right.
So we're kind of limited to about 6, 7, 8 businesses. So we can do the bigger ones. We like to do May, and then in September at the War Memorial in Fulton. So we can get some larger, just a larger count.
And I know I mentioned it to you and you said you didn't have someone, but because of our work ready attempt to get our community to be, county to be one of the first ones, if we couldn't have something to do with testing. And I know you said you have to have.
I have been looking into, I met with Roy and Gina yesterday, working in partnership with the county and Shinneman Foundation. I'm moving forward on this, and I also sat in with BOCES, with Brian Heffron, really moving this forward. But I did get information on what it takes to get an assessor on my staff. So there's a minimal fee, but there's some training that goes along with it. So I've already identified somebody on the staff that I think would be great.
Perfect, because it seems like it's a natural that we should have somebody there that can give these exams, because these are the people that need it.
Yes, and update on work keys. We hit our goal for minimum number of businesses this past week.
Excellent.
We were supposed to have 53. I think I added the 55th yesterday, which was Oswego County. So we are on it, Roy. But what we're looking at to hit the goals we need for the number of assessments to be the first work-ready community for New York State is a total of 319 assessments. That is split between the emerging workforce, which are our high school and college students, which that we only need 72. I think between Fulton and Mexico High School and P-Tech, that's not going to be a problem to hit in the next couple months. We need 21 people that are currently employed. So we've got to identify a business or two and see if there's a way to work that in for promotions for folks. The challenge is the unemployed. We need 226 people that are currently unemployed to take it. So I think that's going to be the biggest challenge.
Students don't count.
Could there be some, unemployment, the office is right in the same building as yours, correct? Is there any way we can segue into say, when people come in, look at, you can go right over here and get this thing, take a test and we get your certificate.
Well, it's a little more complicated than that, just because they take so long and they're, you want to make sure, and you want them to prepare for it. So if they do
sign up at least.
Yes, we need to definitely inform them about it.
Yeah.
And what it can do for them, and that's why trying to get Brian Heffron over at BOCES. See, my take on this is, and the reason that I met with Gina, and when Rachel found out I was meeting, Gina is the director of Shinneman, executive director of the Shinneman and Foundation. And when Rachel found out I was going to meet her, she said, "Can I go too?" And I said, "Yeah, let's do this." So yesterday morning we met, and so what I'm looking for is a pot of money that we can find in the county, perhaps. We have, and then I don't think it needs to be a lot to pilot the testing over at Workforce.
Right.
So the question to Shinneman was, would you be willing to match whatever we can come up with? So we can say, hey, maybe if we can come up with 10 grand altogether, that's 100 assessments.
Yeah.
Or thereabouts. If we can, we're going to find. So we're really going to put together a budget for it. And then we got to promote it to the people who take it. So it's the underemployed and the unemployed are the folks that we need to get over the hump to become first work ready.
Right.
But at the same time, I think it's important to do that. I think the idea of again working together with BOCES, the county, and Shinneman, hand in hand, again starts to knock down these silos of working together in ways that we had worked together before COVID. And then a lot of that has stopped, and we didn't know different things that are happening. So I think it's going to be, can you imagine the marketing that we can do by saying, with Micron coming to town, we are the first work-ready county?
Oh, absolutely. I just think it's location, location, location. If you got the unemployment office, that's where those people are going. That's where we really have to pinpoint is advertise, market, sign up, to get them at least signed up, understanding you want to prep for it and everything, but at least those are the people that we really need to get.
So as soon as you come up with a budget for it, and we'll try to put something together that we present to this committee to make it happen. And Gina's in the process of researching what she can do, with any monies that are there. Apparently there may actually be, remember there was an entity called CCCE that was a joint adult education group created between the community college, Hugh County Community College and BOCES, so that they would have less redundant adult offerings, education offerings. Well, in that apparent, Gina called it a divorce, between the two and the ending of CCCP, there may still be a chunk of money that was sitting around. She's looking in to see if that may be available to provide that for testing. Because that's what it was for in the beginning at CCCE, but during COVID, everything went away. So we're not even sure that BOCES is aware that money's there.
Yeah.
So this is sort of a rebuilding of the alliance that started the first the very first anti-poverty task force was created as an alliance between the county, BOCES, and Shinneman, each funding the original study, 1/3.
Taking things off the shelf again. Us.
I would just say when you know what the project cost is going to be, at least on an annual basis, or however you want to kind of do this, if there's, between the discussions with Shinneman and what you can find, if there's still a project gap, please come, because I can see how this could directly benefit our manufacturers in Oswego County, or maybe the ability for the IDA to potentially participate as well, if we know what it looks like.
Well, and the IDA was one of the original funders.
Right, they were one of the original funders. And still important, and I think it's still important to the county, so if we can help to get it back off the ground.
Yeah, and there's a lot of case studies out there to support it. I mean, for those that don't know, the workies, it's a standardized measure of foundational work skills. But it's 3 assessments. There's workplace documents, graphic literacy, and applied math that people have to take. It does take a total of about 4 hours, and it's $39 to do it. So it's not an astronomical amount to do it. And then you're scored bronze, silver, gold, platinum, and then each of those scores are then equated to different industry and occupations that you would be suited for based on your goal. But there's case studies out there where Boeing uses it in some areas in their pre-apprenticeship programs to really choose who moves on into their apprenticeship programs, and Ford plants being built in different areas because they're work-ready communities. So there is a basis for it there, and Monroe County is now starting. So we
got to beat them.
We want to beat them.
Is there some kind of study guide?
There's a whole curriculum. Yep, there is a whole curriculum that people can go through, and actually Fulton is working on adapting it to high school level, so that they're actually going to offer a business elective course that culminates with this, instead of kind of piecemealing it for other courses.
Is it 4 hours? I'm sorry, go ahead.
How are you going to incentivize these people, motivate these people to take a 4-hour test when many of them are satisfied with their status quo?
That's the $1 million question. That's what I want to pose, though, to the businesses, because we have the businesses that have signed on that support it, but my next goal is how are they going to support it? Are they going to put it as a preferred qualification on their applications? Will they maybe look at it instead of a high school diploma if people have this at a certain level?
Or in addition to the high school diploma.
Or in addition.
That's a good idea.
So 2 incentives are: 1, if we do get enough businesses that say we utilize this in our hiring practice, and B, we'll pay for it for you. So in other words, we're going to fund the test. No cost to you other than your time. If you fail the test, you can take it again too. But that's why the whole idea of having classes that help them prepare for it. So, I mean, if we can provide them pretty strong evidence that if you get bronze or, gold on this test, you're going to be able to walk into any number of businesses and say, with this certificate, this puts you up here in the pack. That is hopefully the incentive. And I'm hoping that the marketing piece of this, so that as we are able to make, if we get the designation where we become the first work-ready county in New York State, it's going to be able to attract attention to it in a way and market it not only to people that would take it, but to businesses to say, hey, we should use this in our application process as well.
I wonder, is it not still with unemployment that you go in and you have to be going to certain companies to look for a job?
They still have a minimum of a work search requirement per week or per month. Their process has changed a lot since COVID because it's not 100% come into the office. You don't get your benefits anymore. There's virtual options on there.
I was just wondering if taking the test could fill one of those requirements. So that's in their advantage, because you're saying you're trying to motivate them. Look, if you take this, you don't have to search, for 1-2 weeks or whatever it is, to give them something. Oh, okay, because I don't like to do that. Oh, if I take a test, maybe, okay. I'm just trying to give them an
Yes,
idea.
well, aren't certain job training courses that allow people to not go out and do the job search? Okay, so that is a possibility. That's a really good point.
Shouldn't that be one for DSS's ENT?
Yes.
I've had that conversation. When I started, I tried to get it to replace the tape testing.
Yeah.
But the state requires a 3 level score, and this doesn't do that. But if there's a way that we can build it into the employment plans for those that are with DSS, then they are required to do it.
Is the math the same level, 8th grade level?
That's not a level. That's a level. Yeah, I did research on it for probably 6, 8 months. Yeah, it doesn't give you that number score. Yeah, that's challenging. Yeah.
Great. Recently, Kinney Drugs in Oswego had to shut their window down. They've had a horrible time. And several of the pharmacists had to come from the main office, a couple hours away near Potsdam. And the one pharmacist said to us, we have found of all of our chain locations, Oswego to be one of the worst to try to hire someone. They'll come in, they'll quit easy, they go right back on benefits. That should be something that's scrutinized, in my opinion. You gotta get some workforce going here. And they found Oswego to be particularly difficult, and this came right from the pharmacists themselves.
Is that pharmacy techs that they were having?
Anybody to work the floor, unloading, anything, any position in the building, they couldn't hold anybody. He said, we really never quite encountered anything like this. And again, they were driving 3 hours. These pharmacists were coming 3 hours. One of the pharmacists, the young girl is a Yurden. She's absolutely wonderful kid. Looks like a walking zombie. They can't even get anybody to help them cash people out. They've had to close the window. They can't even get stuff unloaded by loading them. So these are not complex jobs.
No.
But he did mention that it's a very, very difficult county to get somebody to.
If they want to work with us, honestly, that's a business that we don't really have contact with. They haven't, reached out, haven't tried to come any job fairs or anything, but that's something, could be a good avenue for youth work experience even. So even if they learn some front counter help, that would be it.
Can you send Kinney Drugs a letter in Oswego? I mean, or do you have corporate reach? I don't know.
Well, that's where we have a hard time when it comes to places like that have the corporate offices. We can talk to the local and they love it. They love the idea of our services or free services, and then when they send paperwork back to corporate, it gets next.
Well, no, corporate's like 3 hours away. It's a smaller chain, but
right.
I can tell Karen to call you.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they're absolutely frantic.
Our main number is right on the bottom of the flyer that I pass out, the 591-9000.
Okay. Austin, did you have something?
Nope, I'm good.
All good.
So just a couple last thoughts about it. Interesting things that one of the things Rachel found was that there's a prison system in Missouri that gives the assessments to every inmate as they leave. If they pass it, they have something they can take and try to go to work instead of go back to the streets.
What about our jail right here in Oswego County?
Well,
I mean,
it would be something to look at. We probably couldn't mandate it, but we could certainly offer it.
We have a captive. I mean, I think that would be a great idea to go into that.
And then the other angle is, working with Eric Hoosier at Veterans. He didn't know about it, and he's really excited about it.
I saw that.
Of being able to take recently separated vets from service to take the assessments here.
Excellent.
So we think those are some pretty interesting angles to work.
Okay. Dave, do you have anything for strategic?
Well, first to Rachel, I don't know anybody over 10 that doesn't have a cell phone, right? So when I look at your poster there and it lists the employers, Like, if I'm out of work and inexperienced, I might have no idea about what kind of jobs are available at those places. I might not know any. I don't even know what a RISE is, right? How do I know what kind of job they have? So maybe a QR code on there that people could scan to take them to a link. Here's the job titles that all these people are looking for. You know, what's Oswego County's out there? What does that mean? Do they want a person at DSS, or do they want a guy driving a dump truck? You know, it might be helpful to get more people if they knew what kind of what positions were open.
And if it was easy to find job openings in Oswego County on our website, it's very hard to find out here. I still haven't found them yet.
Okay.
What about like a part of the emergency, like housing placement? People that are faced in emergency housing if they're not employed, they're part of that process.
Would that not be DSS?
Yeah, is it separate from their employment side, their housing? That all works together.
Well, you know, we talked to DSS about it yesterday at committee, and they, their people that are involved with that are going to try to promote it once we get it up and going in the office there. I just want to also plug that at Camp Hollis, there's AmeriCorps jobs at Camp Hollis and Camp Zerby, and they did use the QR code. Yeah. So you can. So there are counselor jobs, counselors in training, lifeguards, activity leaders, kitchen staff, nurses, waterfront director, office manager, night security, all kinds of jobs that are available right now at Camp Hollis and Camp Zerby. And some of them are for young people, particularly. So pass the word. Everybody wants to grab those or take a picture of them. You can put them on there.
So, I keep swearing I see Austin's hand.
I just wanted to say, I think the QR code would be great, because then you could also determine how many people are actually looking at the flyer and using it, because you could have a bit.ly on it and just kind of really track how many people actually got to that website to see that from your flyer, and then you kind of have a better idea of, is this effective or not.
Yeah.
So yes, Paul specifically asked me to come and talk about where we are with broadband.
Okay.
New York State got money from the federal government to assist with reaching the unserved and underserved. It took about 2 years to put their grant program together, and then gave us 45 days to make an application. So we're looking very hard at trying to get something together. We did an RFP late last year. We had 4 responses. 2 of them were responsive. And when I say that, we had certain criteria that we're looking for, and coincidentally, it's one of the things that New York State put a priority on, and that's open access. So the 2 big providers, Spectrum and Verizon, both said specifically no. If we come in and build, it's us or nobody. We're not letting anybody else use our lines, our equipment. So if we were to choose one of them, we would not be very competitive in our grant seeking process, because both the feds and the state, and I think we do as well, believe that access means affordability. It gives people choices, and helps make just because you have fiber going by your house, if you can't afford it, it doesn't mean anything, right? So we have 2 that both said that we're willing to work with other people to get service to these places. And 1 gave us a proposal that was only to the served and underserved addresses, and the other said we'd like to do the whole county, but we don't really have a good solid picture of the financial piece of the second one and what it really means to us. We've asked them to find that for us, and they haven't really done that to our expectations so far. But to apply for this state money, you've got to put something together really quickly. A major complication is that New York State also said that there has to be some type of municipal ownership if you're going to access these funds. So we're talking to county attorney and others about how we could possibly structure something. There's several different ways. It may involve bringing something that you or caucus or anybody else hasn't even seen yet to the floor next week in order to put perhaps an LDC together that could be the municipal owner for a broadband project. The first application is due March 8th, which is a week before your next legislative meeting. So if you're asked by leadership to make yourself available for a meeting, this is kind of a high priority topic, and it's moving very quickly. And I can't give you all the pieces right now that fit into the puzzle because some of them we don't even know. But it's a priority for us as a county and for my department as well. And I hope you'll be patient and willing to participate in any really short notice meetings that we might ask you for within the next month.
Within the next month, you mean before our legislative meeting? Because you're saying that the other one, so it has to be within the next 10 days?
We may bring something with the permission of leadership if we can put something together that is acceptable off the floor at the February meeting.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying, it has to be within the next 10 days.
In order to be competitive in this state process, we have to have a municipal entity that will have some form of ownership in the broadband build-out project. We'd have to have a contract, or close to a contract with a provider in order to have an application to the state by March 8th.
When did they give you that deadline?
About a week ago.
A week ago. Okay.
There is a second round in April, but the meeting that we had with the state last Thursday, they said, you are hoping to serve the unserved and underserved. You really want to have your application to us in March. You can do it again in April, but we want to see our priority is to see it in March. So you always try to do what the funder has prioritized to be. In case it's not going to be easy, we'll try very hard to make that. If you don't, we'll have to do April and hope that there's no money.
So, Dave, don't you want us to be in contract with one of the two prior to the funding application?
That would be ideal. We could say in our application that we're close to entering an agreement, but if we don't have a plan in our application, it won't be as competitive. So not knowing which provider, we wouldn't really have a solid plan, right? So.
Well, we met with these companies how long ago?
We met with them in the beginning of January, I think.
January, I believe.
Yeah.
Was it in January we sat down? Okay. And they still haven't given us some of the information that we requested?
No, we finally got it all.
We got it all.
We
Just yesterday.
Yesterday.
Yeah, 2 o'clock yesterday. We asked for additional information to help us better understand their financial resources and their actual ability. One of them had only chosen to serve a portion of our slum service. And we said, we really want to serve all of them. So they came back with another plan and identified that for us as well.
Well, do we have to have a meeting of those of us that sat down and listened to these people first before we do anything, or not? I mean, I thought we had to rate them and everything. And
Yeah, I would think we should just sit down, rate them, and pick someone so we can go forward.
Yeah. So we have to have the meeting to sit down and rate, and then we have to get it all written up, the plan, in the next 10 days.
Or you may say, for various reasons, neither one of these work for us right now, in which case, we're back on ground zero.
Well, I mean, both, reading them, one of them is working with a bunch of different counties right now on broadband. So it seems, if we look at the references, I mean, one works with us now, but hasn't done a project this size. One is working with Madison, Livingston, and another county, so.
Yeah. So we need to sit down and we need to rate them.
Yeah.
That's, I think, our next step.
And wouldn't they help us with the grant too, if we select someone?
Yes.
Okay, we've got 6 minutes left. Anybody got any other comments before we get to close?
We'll get close.
Bro, you got a second?
Second.
Okay. Thank you, guys. A lot of information. Okay.